that song? It's an old Pentecostal song. Yeah, we used to sing that in church years ago. You know, when I was a kid, I used to watch people sing out of the hymnal. Older people that hold the hymnal like this. I can relate to that now. The title of the message today, Oh No, It's Monday. How to love your job when you're in a job you don't love. Now, the initial reaction to that might be, it's Sunday, Dave, it's Sunday. Tell us something spiritual. You know, to me, there's no distinction between the secular and the sacred. I try to melt that away because we're the same people on Monday that we are on Sunday. If we can carry some of our Sunday into Monday, maybe the work week will be a lot better. What's not in the biography, I spent 28 years as a human resource director. So my job for a very long time was to try to hire the people that I thought were going to be the most enthusiastic, the most engaged, the most sincere about bringing their gifts and talents to the workplace. And I grew to love the workplace. I grew to love what I did there. And I noticed, though, that in our culture, we tend to live for something else. You know, there's a famous restaurant chain. It's not a bad restaurant either, called TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Well, let me ask you a rhetorical question. You don't have to raise your hand, but a rhetorical question. Have you ever spent a Sunday in dread of what was coming on Monday when you went to work? See, that's why I think this is a spiritual topic, because it has an impact on our lives 7 days a week, all year through. According to one study, 70 to 80% of American workers dread Monday. Not just once in a while, but every single week. Now I'm thinking that's a horrible thing if you're actually living that. And I've experienced that, and that's why I know that it's something that we should be dealing with, we should be approaching proactively, instead of just accepting it. There's so much in our culture. There's a song that talks about living for the weekend. But you know what? We're alive 7 days a week. These are the days of our lives. Imagine, if you will, that you have 7 children. 7 children. These are your offspring, your kids. They're named Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. These are your kids. If these children were living in your home, would you say, thank God it's Friday? I hate Monday. See, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. But you're doing that to your time, to your week. And these are moments that we don't get back. This is the thing. You know, whatever you believe esoterically about your soul, about your spirit, reincarnation, whatever you believe esoterically, these are the moments of your life right now. And every moment should be quality. Every moment should be valuable, including Monday morning. When I was a kid, I was 8 years old. I'll never forget this summer. You know, my mother's wisdom gets wiser with age. She's on the other side now. But we used to go down to Ocean City twice a year, twice in the summertime, once in July, once in August, but it was only for a 3-day period. So we'd go down on a Tuesday, we'd come back on a Thursday. Very frustrating when you're 8 years old. But I remember it was July, and I spent 3 days in the surf, riding my surf mat. Back in those days, you used to blow these things up. They were canvas. Remember those? And you had to bend them forward when the wave hit, otherwise you'd go down into the sand. So I used to love to do this. And I remember coming back from Ocean City, I was extremely depressed that I wasn't at the beach. It was a beautiful summer day. I was laying in the basement. I was laying on top of my surf mat because I could actually smell the ocean in the surf mat. And my mother said, it's a beautiful day outside. And I said, yeah, but I miss Ocean City so much. She says, well, we're going back in August. And I said, I just can't wait. And she said, don't wish your summer away. Don't wish your summer away. And as I aged, that wisdom got applied to many other things. It occurred to me one day when I was working a job that I didn't particularly like. I was dreading Monday. Those words came back to me. Don't wish your summer away. Don't wish your week away. Don't start Monday thinking, oh, I can't wait to get to Friday. And what do we say about Wednesday? Wednesday's hump day, right? We're halfway there. Well, if you have 7 days and you're living for 2, then that's 5 days of your life that you're wasting away, that you're wishing away. I want to tell you about a work experience that I had to give you an idea of where I'm coming from and my experience in the workplace. So you know that I've had some great jobs in my time, but this one, I applied for a position as a branch manager training in a bank. Actually, it was a savings and loan. And when I got accepted into the position, I was thrilled. I thought, this is going to be my career. And I actually loved what I was doing. I trained with a person named Jean, who has since retired, but she had a branch on Padonia in Baltimore County. And I remember training there with her for better than 6 months. And at one point, a couple of guys came into the bank. They came running in and they were bobbing up and down because we had cameras going. And one of them had an automatic weapon. And he pointed the weapon straight at my face. Now, I knew weapons well enough to know that if you have an automatic handgun and the hammer's back, it's not a good situation. And I fully expected, I was in my 20s at the time, I fully expected to be dead. I really did. I thought he was going to pull the trigger. He never did pull the trigger. I'm still here. Had he done that, I'd have been in rather big trouble. After that robbery, somehow in my mind, I thought, well, it was a one-time thing. It'll never happen again. I became my own branch manager. I had a branch in Westminster in Baltimore County. I was up there managing that branch. I was up there for over a year. And again, a couple of guys came into the bank. This time they had a revolver. But again, the hammer was back on the revolver. Only this time something was different. After that robbery, I just didn't want to go back in the branch. I was done. I had it in my mind that third time's a charm. If I had this happen again, I might not be so lucky the next time. So I began to experience these physical symptoms, if you will. I remember driving to Ocean City that year and hyperventilating in the car. We had to get off the road. I was driving, went into a Pizza Hut where the air conditioner was going. I just sat there and drank a birch beer because I was having these problems. And I decided I couldn't continue in the job that I really loved. I really loved being a branch manager, but I couldn't continue. So I found another job, and when I gave notice, the human resource department said, "Why are you quitting?" And I said, I'm attached to my life. That's what it is. And they said, well, if that's the issue, if you're really worried about bank robberies, we can move you to an administrative position. And they did. And I stayed with the bank until the bank crisis. This was a savings and loan, and if you've been around a while, you might remember the savings and loan crisis, and most of them collapsed and they went into commercial banks. That's a whole other story. But I know what dreading Monday is all about. And I would sit home on Sunday and I would tremble because I had to go to the branch the next day and possibly face that. So I understand what that feels like. I also understand what it feels like to have a job that you love and you can't wait to get to work on Monday. But I want to offer you at least one thing, one tip. Now, I do an entire seminar on this topic where I cover lots of different things, but if I had to give you just one thing, and I do because our time is short, it would be this. Regardless of what your job is, regardless of how much you feel that it's fulfilling or not fulfilling or whatever, if you have a purpose, if you have a goal or a mission in your life, that can give you, that can lift you. Regardless. You might say, well, I dream, I'm just making this up, I dream of being an actor. I want to go to Hollywood and be a movie star. Maybe that's your dream. Maybe that's what you really want to do. But even Harrison Ford was a carpenter for many, many years before he actually hit success in that business. The point is that we work, we labor. That's what we do. It's part of life. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's portrayed as an evil necessity. It's not an evil necessity. But if we have this purpose, this mission, it can lift us. I want to give you 3 examples of people who have studied this, who devoted their lives to it. One is Viktor Frankel. I hope you know that name. That name to me is legendary. I first encountered that name. I was a psychology major undergraduate, and in one class we studied the work of Viktor Frankel. He developed a therapy called logotherapy, and he developed this therapy in the concentration camps in Germany. Viktor Frankel was a psychiatrist, a Jewish German psychiatrist in Nazi Germany. He was captured, he was imprisoned, his family was imprisoned, and his wife, whom he only married, I think, for 8 months before they were captured and sent to a concentration camp. His wife, his parents, all perished in a concentration camp. Instead of giving up hope, instead of giving in to despair, he began to make observations about people who were surviving in that situation and people who were perishing. And what he came up with was the people that had a vision. It was the people that had a mission or a goal or a purpose. It could be as simple as, when I get out of here, I'm going skiing. It could have been that simple, but it gave their present moment existence meaning and hope. When there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. And so he developed this entire school of psychiatry around these observations. And you can read about it in a book called Man's Search for Meaning. I think it's one of the most significant contributions to modern psychology in our time. The other 2 things I want to mention, this is from Proverbs chapter 28, verse 18. Without a vision, people perish. People perish. I was watching Battlestar Galactica, not the old one, the remake. And the Cylons have pretty much annihilated the human race. There's 50,000 people left. And the military leader of humanity that's now excess, getting out of the galaxy, makes a speech, and he says, we're going to find Earth. Earth is a place that's populated with human beings. We're going to find people of our own kind. We're going to go there. We're going to start anew. And after he delivers the speech, the president comes and says, you know there's no Earth. And he says, yeah, I know that, but people need hope. They need a vision. They need a purpose to live. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2 says, for the joy set before him being Christ, he endured the cross. I mean, you probably all know the story of Jesus Christ. Walking to Calvary, carrying his cross to Calvary to be crucified. The Bible says, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, that he endured that for the joy set before him. The joy. I remember working a job I didn't particularly like, but I wanted to be a novelist. And every day, for 3 years, I came home from work, ate dinner, went upstairs to my study, and I worked on my novel for 3 hours every single day. I did that for 3 years. And you know, that purpose, having that mission, that purpose, lifted my day. It made me a better worker. I got to work early. I worked late. I was enthusiastic throughout the course of the day because I loved the job, not necessarily, but I loved what I was doing after. And that energy, that enthusiasm that came from pursuing that mission lifted everything else, like a boat on a rising tide. One of the happiest days of my life was the day that the publisher sent me the proof of the cover. And I wanted to be a novelist since I was a child. And here I was holding the image of that cover in my hand, the fulfillment of a lifelong dream, happy moment. And that will make everything else better. I want to share with you something that I heard Les Brown say. I don't know if you know who he's a motivational speaker, probably one of the best of all time. Les Brown attributed this to someone else, and I searched online to see who might have said it, but I couldn't find it, so I'm attributing it to Les Brown because that's where I heard it. So here's what he said. Imagine being on your deathbed. Standing around your bed are the ghosts of the ideas, the dreams, the abilities, the talents given to you by life. For whatever reason, you never acted on those ideas. You never pursued that dream. You never used those talents. You never saw your leadership. You never used your voice. You never wrote that book. And there they are, standing around your bed, looking at you with large, angry eyes, saying, "We came to you, and only you could have given us life. Now we must die with you." The question is, if you die today, what ideas, what dreams, what abilities, what talents, what gifts would die with you? The point is, there's something in your life that's gnawing at you, that wants to get a hold of you, that you're called to do. Now, I believe that we came into this life with a mission and a purpose. And when that gets a hold of us, everything else is better. Everything else makes sense. Even if you're working a job you don't love, it lifts that. It gives it meaning. It gives it purpose.